So, let's talk about the Ottawa Senators real quick. I'll actually include some of my thoughts about the what happened in Baltimore. I know it's a hockey channel, but work on the water, so I feel like I can give you my 2 cents because I see some things being said that just don't seem to be. I mean, I understand it. Some people don't understand maritime operations or just vessels in general. So Philly will go into that, have a conversation at the end. But I want to talk about the Ottawa Senators, and they had a good win last night. They showed some of that offensive explosion and the potential that they have, and they've really underperformed for the most part. And it's a frustrating thing because Ottawa's a team that I have really believed in, and I thought, like, man, they could do something special. They have some good pieces. They brought in Tarasenko in the offseason, and you thought, like, really optimistically about that. You're like, man, they're bringing in some talent. They have good pieces. They have Stützle, a really good young player. They have Brady Tkachuk, another really good young player. I know Stützle's having not as much production as last season. Brady Tkachuk, I think, is having a good season. Both are fantastic players to build around, but for whatever reason, in some circumstances, it just hasn't been an amazing year for the Senators. And now last year you could kind of blame the goaltending because I think they went through a million of them, right? I think at one point, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they had like a goalie from the ECHL up at the NHL at one point. They just kept getting ravaged by injuries. And I think when it kind of comes down to it, you bring in, you do have Korpisalo now, who can be very good at some games, not so much other. Kind of what he's Korpisalo. He's a very good goalie. I don't think he's ever gonna, is he ever gonna be in the Vezina conversation? I think he has the physical tools to be, but I'm just, Korpisalo can be a little bit up and down. And they have good defense. Like they ended up bringing in a guy like Chikrin from Arizona. At this point, what was that, a couple years ago? They do have some good players on the back end. They have all the pieces. And is it peculiar that a team with that much talent on paper is struggling to succeed on ice? I don't think it's crazy. I think we've seen it. And I'm not comparing the team into one-for-one comparison, so don't get confused when I say this. But even when you think about the Edmonton Oilers this past season, it's not like the Edmonton Oilers were starting off really well. They struggled. They had to get their footing. Now you could argue the Oilers ended up actually getting their footing and playing well, so it's not a one-for-one comparison, but there has been teams in the past that have looked really great on paper tigers is what they call them, and just haven't been able to really provide. And I mean, Claude Giroux decided to go home, want to play for his hometown team. Hasn't really worked out in Ottawa. I mean, he's still producing at a good level. What should the Senators do? I think there's some minor tweaks they can do, make some adjustments. They have some nice players. Greg Pinto had his controversy with the whole gambling thing, but they have some players that they have contract situations they have to figure out, but they're promising. And if I'm gonna be very frank, you might need a new head coach, or you might somebody new behind the bench. Maybe bring some new life, maybe bring in some minor pieces. I mean, they've tried. The one thing I'll give Ottawa is they have tried to, bring in some pieces. They've tried. They brought in Tarasenko. They brought in other guys. It just hasn't worked thus far. Does that mean it will never work? No, that's not the case. But I will say this. Got to give them at least that credit. They're trying. They're trying to do as much as they can to succeed now. They want to try to build a winner. It just hasn't worked out thus far. So I think Ottawa has the chance to be something special. Now, and I'll probably make a greater, more detailed video on the Baltimore situation. So, this is the thing. These reports, just in the maritime end, these take years. So, what I say here, I want to make very clear. There's a lot of assumptions. That's what you're going to see is a lot of assumptions. But looking at the video, with the ship that collided, should be more technically because it's one's a stage of collision, but whatever. The vessel that hit the bridge in Baltimore, you can tell it went black ship. And then you do have backup systems in place. You always have redundancy for this reason. You have a backup to a backup to a backup, right? So you see the ship go black. So at that point, you already have forward momentum. And you got to look at it this way. I don't know what the wind conditions were at the time, but you're a huge metal sail, but also you have the current. You're going towards the bridge. You lose power, so it's in God's hand at that point. Comes back online. You can see the black smoke from the stacks trying to go astern. And now this is assumption, I could be wrong, but I think when the redundancy, the backup systems came online, it was probably a huge load on them because they were probably going full astern for obvious reasons. They wanted to prevent colliding into the bridge. And I think that overloaded the system, thus went offline again. And unfortunately, it missed the Dolphin. So we hit that perfect spot and it just, boom. Because once one of those supports goes, especially on a bridge of that, it's not staying up. It just falls down like a house of cards. And I want to say prayers and thoughts and prayers to everybody that's trying to find. It's a really, really sad and crappy situation. And I already see people saying, like, it's the captain's fault. It's the pilot's fault. If you're not familiar with the maritime industry, with the captain, when they go into ports, they get what's called a pilot. So it's like a local, I'm trying to put this in layman's terms, but like a local captain, a guy who knows the area. Like he does the chart of the area. Like there's paper charts that you have in the industry to show in this field that show the exact buoys, landmarks, everything. Like he does that by memory, so he knows the area extremely well. You don't know right now because, quite frankly, people want to blame the captain. Some want to say throw him in jail. If he did everything that he possibly could, if he kept up with his proper maintenance, if he did everything in his power to make sure and maintain that vessel in its proper working order, it's going to be very hard for the captain to face any type of punishment. Some people try to compare this to what happened a few years back with the cruise ship captain that ended up going aground and the vessel tilted over and people did pass. No, the reason why he went to jail is because he willingly went into a shallow water area because he wanted to put on a show. He went against best working practices and endangered people's lives and killed them. So yes, that's why he's faced jail time. In a situation like this, if it was just a pure mechanical failure and an actual accident, there's not much there. It really does depend. The NTSB reports are going to take at least a couple of years with litigation and all that to really come out. You don't know what's happening. I also have to, I have to say this. There's some captains, and you can have this perspective, but there's some captains with companies are trying to get you going, trying to get you out to sea. They'll get you underway even if you're missing a piece of equipment, and it's going to be interesting to see what comes out, because it would not be the first time that you have a vessel in an incident and the office isn't properly supplying them, redundant parts. They aren't giving, if the captain reported everything, let's say there was a issue with their backups, right, with their secondary system, and he reported it and documented it, and that's why you got to log everything in this industry, it would be more on the company. So I know a lot of people just want to throw the guy under the bus, but you don't know. We don't know right now. It's just on these vessels you have, at least one backup, at least an extra backup generator, emergency steering system. They have a bunch of different things to do to make sure that incidents like that happen. But it was just because I've been with, ATBs, I've been through there quite a bit. Where he was, it happened at the worst possible place because he had no time. That is so much weight, so much mass moving forward. You gotta understand, there wasn't enough time to try again. It's such an unfortunate situation. It really is. I feel so bad for the people that lost their lives with this. you know, like some of these people just going to work or just coming home from work or just going out from a fun night of fun or whatever, seeing family, and they weren't expecting to be in a horrific maritime accident that took their life. So I do want to make sure that's clear. It's very sad to see what happened here. But you know, as for making any type of judgment either or, I'll even say this right now myself, we don't know what happened. We just don't. Until the reports come out, we probably never will. So, well, no, we will know. We will eventually know, but I'm saying until the reports come out, we won't know for sure exactly what happened with the vessel. Like, was the maintenance kept up with? That's the big thing. That's what they're going to go through. Like, was the maintenance kept up with? Because if it wasn't, that's ultimately the captain's responsibility. Now, if it was, it's just going to be looked at as an accident. Or if the captain requested parts repeatedly from the office and they weren't supplied, the company could be looked at fault. So a ton of things going on there. I know this isn't a maritime channel, but I'm going to have a more detailed video on my podcast channel. So let's talk about the Ottawa Senators and the Baltimore Bridge. See you in the next one.